So good evening, everyone, and welcome to our weekly Torah studies class for Parshas Vayechi. The topic is messianic, why believing in Mashiach is fundamental to our faith. Not exactly sure like the title messianic, but you get the idea from the description. So a few years ago, there was quite the controversy in Israel surrounding belief in Mashiach. There was a very prominent rabbi who made a statement, something along the lines of, Judaism does not expect or demand a person to await the coming of Mashiach every day. It's not realistic. Belief, faith, anticipation in Mashiach is an important part of Judaism. It's a general principle, but it's not something that has to be part of our daily life experience. Torah can't demand that of us. There were other Jews who heard about this proclamation and said this rabbi is a heretic. He has to be removed from every position of authority. And the debate was raging, with proofs going back and forth, who's right, who's wrong. And it bothered me. It bothered me because when we think about the concept of Mashiach, the concept of Mashiach is one of the 13 principles of Jewish faith. When something is a principle, that means if you don't know this principle, or if you don't understand this principle, or if you're misapplying this principle, it means you're not just misapplying or misunderstanding one detail or one part of Judaism. It means you don't get it, you don't understand it, you have no feeling for what Judaism is at all, period. That is how important it is. So how it could be possible that observant, religious, scholarly, bearded Jews could debate the importance of the concept of Mashiach and its relevance on a daily basis certainly boggles my mind. So let's explore the idea of Mashiach and what does it mean that it's a principle within Judaism. So let's go to text number 1a, page 187 in your student book if you're following along, or we could just read it together on the PowerPoint. So this is Rambam's commentary to the Mishnah, where he formulates his 13 principles of the Jewish faith. He writes, the 12th principle, we believe and affirm that Mashiach will come. One should not think he is detained. Rather, if he should tarry, await him. One who doubts or belittles Mashiach's arrival denies the authority of the Torah, which explicitly promises his arrival in the story of Bilam and in Deuteronomy 30. So the Rambam says, not only do we have to believe in the coming of Mashiach, but we actually have to await him every single day. If you doubt this, it's not just that you doubted one part of Judaism, but you have denied the authenticity, the accuracy of the entire Torah and all of Judaism. This principle you may be familiar with as it is summarized and included in many Siddurim as part of the davening, with this formulation: I believe with perfect faith in the coming of Mashiach, though he may tarry, I await his coming every day. This is the famous Ani Mamim be'emuna shalema b'vias HaMashiach that we're all familiar with. This is the Ani Mamim, I believe, I have faith in the coming of Mashiach. But the question, of course, could be asked, why is it so important today? We understand that Mashiach is going to come at some point. At some point in time, Mashiach will come. But today, right now, at this moment, how is Mashiach relevant? Why is Mashiach relevant? Let's say, God forbid, it takes 63 years from now until Mashiach comes. Let's say that's when it happens, right? God forbid, because Mashiach should happen today. But what if it's going to be in 63 years? Why today would I wait Mashiach? Why would Mashiach be part of my life today? Why should something that can happen in decades or centuries later, how could that be considered something that is a foundational principle of Judaism? When Mashiach comes, Mashiach comes. But for the past 3,500 years, and for the tens of millions of Jews who have lived and died with the belief in the coming of Mashiach, what was the relevance to their life if Mashiach still has not come yet? The question becomes even stronger when we define what a principle is. We said that Mashiach is one of the 13 principles of Jewish faith. What's a principle? So we go to text number 2, Rabbi Dan Yitzchak Abarbanel, and I just want to read his biography so we have a feeling of who he was. He was a biblical exegete and statesman. Abarbanel was born in Lisbon, Portugal, and served as a minister in the court of King Alfonso V of Portugal. After intrigues at court led to accusations against him, he fled to Spain, where he once again served as a counselor to royalty. It is acclaimed that the Abarbanel offered King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella large sums of money for the revocation of their edict of expulsion of 1492, but to no avail. After the expulsion, he eventually settled in Italy, where he wrote the commentary on scripture as well as other venerated works. So the Abarbanel writes like this: the title principle, Yesod, is used for a foundation upon which the entire building rests, as in the verse, raise it to the foundation. So it only makes sense to use the title principle with regard to ideas that serve as the lifeline for other ideas, namely an idea without which those other ideas would cease to exist. So he tells us the importance of a principle of Judaism is, without this principle, none of the other principles would exist. None of the other elements of Judaism would be able to exist, because a principle is the foundation which everything is built upon. Now, let's give an example. Text number 3. This is an example of a principle that all of Judaism is based on. We believe that the entire Torah in our possession was given to us by God through Moshe, our teacher. Namely, the Torah in its entirety is from God. There is no difference between the verses and the sons of Ham were Cush, Mitzrayim, Put, and Canaan, and his wife's name was Mechatat, I don't even know how to pronounce that one, the daughter of Matrad, the daughter of Mezav. And Timnah was concubine too. And I am God your Lord, who brought you out of the land of Egypt. And hear, O Israel, God is our Lord, God is one. For it is all from God. It is all God's perfect Torah, pure, holy, and true. This is a perfect example of what it means when we say one of the 13 principles of which the entire Judaism is based on. If you remove this principle, if you take it away, there simply is no Judaism anymore. If you take away the fact that the Torah is binding, it's obligatory, and it is divine, Judaism will crumble, it will fall apart. Without the Torah being obligatory and divine, there is no Shabbos, there is no kosher. A person can pick and choose and eliminate whatever they feel like. Pesach could be eliminated, and Christmas could be introduced as a Jewish holiday. Because if there is no Torah that is obligatory and binding and that's divine, everything is relative, everything is meaningless, right? As important as Moshe is, and Yaakov and Abraham, Lahavdil Elef Havdalas, you can include Jesus and Muhammad and anyone else in it as well. So without the concept that Torah is obligatory and is of divine nature, it entirely falls apart. How do we see this when it comes to the coming of Mashiach? How could we possibly understand that the idea that one day it will happen, that Mashiach will come, is foundational to all of Judaism, and without it, the whole religion falls apart? We did not have Mashiach for 3,000 years. Did Judaism fall apart? No. So how are we meant to understand that the belief in Mashiach on a daily basis is such a fundamental principle that if we don't have it, the whole Judaism falls apart? So why is belief in Mashiach so integral to Judaism? What part of Judaism would be lacking without this belief? So of course we want to connect this to this week's Torah portion. So in the Torah portion of Vayechi, Yaakov is on his deathbed. He wants to bless his children before he passes away. The Torah tells us in text number 5 that Yaakov called for his sons and said, "Gather, and I will tell you what will happen to you at the end of days." Gather and listen, sons of Jacob, and listen to Israel, your father. What precedes these verses in the Torah is a beautiful set of blessings, words of advice and encouragement for Yaakov's children. What you don't find, what you don't see, is anything that's related to the end of days. Yaakov says, I'm calling you together. Why? So I will tell you what will happen to you at the end of days, and we find nothing. How do we understand it? How do we explain it? What happened? The Talmud, text number 6, fills us in. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish said, the verse states, and Yaakov called his sons and said, gather and I will tell you what will happen to you at the end of days. Yaakov wanted to reveal to his sons when the complete redemption would arrive at the end of days, but the divine presence abandoned him, rendering him unable to prophesy. He said, perhaps the divine presence has abandoned me, because heaven forfend one of my descendants is unfit, as was the case with my grandfather Abraham, from whom Yishmael emerged, and like my father Yitzchak, from whom Esav emerged. His son said to him, hear, O Israel, our father, the Lord is our God, and the Lord is one. They said, just as there is only one God in your heart, so too there is only one in our hearts. At that moment, Yaakov, our father, said in praise, blessed be the name of his glorious kingdom forever and ever. So the Talmud explains, what did Yaakov want to do? Yaakov wanted to reveal to his children the date when Mashiach is going to come. However, God blocked it. God said, no, this is not appropriate. God shut it down, and he was not able to reveal this truth to his children. Now, if that's the case, why does the Torah tell us about this? If Yaakov wanted to reveal this to his children, and God did not allow it to happen, why do we need to know this information? There was a million stories that took place in the life of Yaakov that the Torah does not tell us about, that we don't know about, and will never know about. Why does the Torah choose to tell us Yaakov wanted to reveal the date of Mashiach, but God prevented him from doing so? Another question. Why did Yaakov want to reveal the date of the coming of Mashiach to his children? What was his goal? What did he want to accomplish by that? And finally, we know that the desire of a tzaddik, the will, the wish of a tzaddik, does not get rejected, does not get blocked, cannot go to total waste. Which means something was accomplished by Yaakov desiring to do this. Even though his ultimate wish was not fulfilled, something was accomplished. What was it that was accomplished? In order to answer these questions, we need to appreciate a little bit, what is it that Mashiach is supposed to accomplish? What is the messianic era supposed to look like? We know that the messianic era is going to be a time of peace. There will be no more sickness. There will be no more hunger. There will be no more suffering. All of these things certainly are true. But what is the most critical and most fundamental principle of the messianic era? It's not so much about the physical and material changes that are going to take place in the world. It's much more about the spiritual changes that will take place. Because right now at this moment, the current state of the world is a tremendous battle between the material and the spiritual. There's a tremendous battle for what should claim our attention and what should claim our focus. We are so easily distracted, and we so desire to pursue the physical and the material. This physical and the material is concrete. It's a very tangible, relevant part of our life. It is alluring. Without it, we certainly will die, and much of our life is focused on the physical and the material. The spiritual, we know it's valuable, but it's more abstract, it's vague, it's less tangible, and we have trouble pursuing it, running after it, and incorporating it into our life. There's a battle between the spiritual and the physical. This applies not only to things like putting on tefillin or keeping Shabbos or keeping kosher. We're not just referring to that battle of physical to the spiritual, but we're even referring to The inner struggle, the inner battles, our own ego, jealousy, anger, things of that nature. We struggle with that. We struggle with these issues because we live in exile. What is going to take place when Mashiach comes? The Rambam writes, in that era there will be neither famine nor war, envy nor competition, for good will flow in abundance, and all the delights will be freely available as dust. The occupation of the entire world will be solely to know God. Therefore, the Jews will be great sages and know the hidden matters, grasping the knowledge of their Creator according to the full extent of human potential. So, the era of Mashiach is a seismic shift of the world's focus to spirituality. Now, the material is natural. Now the material is easy. Now the material is the focal point of our life. When Mashiach comes, our entire orientation will change. The spiritual will be primary. The spiritual will be natural. The spiritual will be our entire focus and existence. The material and the physical will be secondary. But when is this going to happen, right? This, of course, is the million-dollar question. We believe in Mashiach, we hope for Mashiach, we desire and want Mashiach to come. But when? When is Mashiach going to come? So the Talmud says that it happens to be there is a date, there is a particular time when Mashiach is going to come. God created the world in a certain way with a due date, so to speak, for Mashiach's arrival. However, if we are worthy, we can hasten that date. If we are worthy, we can bring that date closer. How do we do it? What does it mean? What does it mean to be worthy? Does it mean to keep kosher? Does it mean to keep Shabbos? Does it mean to put on tefillin? Does it mean to light Shabbos candles? Of course. Being a Torah-observant Jew is something that will absolutely quicken, hasten the arrival of Mashiach. But there's something even deeper than that. The era of Mashiach is going to be an era where we value the spiritual over the physical. How do you bring that closer? We can start today. When we value the spiritual over the physical, we are making Mashiach a reality in our world and in our life, and we bring Mashiach that much closer. In the messianic era, there will be no jealousy. If today I stop being jealous, if today I eradicate the concept and the idea of jealousy from my life, the world becomes much more Mashiach-like, much more prepared and ready for Mashiach, and Mashiach is going to be hastened and is going to become that much closer. So the more Mashiach-like we are, the more we behave and act as if Mashiach was here, that is the way that we're going to be able to bring Mashiach closer. With this in mind, we could begin to understand what was Yaakov's goal. Why did he desire to give his children the date when Mashiach was going to come? What did he want to do? But while he didn't, okay, we'll skip that for a second. What did he want to do? He wanted to make Mashiach something real in his children's lives. By giving them a date when Mashiach was going to come, he thought that that would make the concept of Mashiach real and concrete in their lives and would motivate them to live in such a way that will actually hasten the coming of Mashiach and bring the coming of Mashiach closer. However, God felt this was inappropriate because, as we can see, Mashiach did not come for 2,500, 3,000 years after this event. And he felt by a date that's so far in the future, perhaps it won't motivate the children to act in such a way that will bring it closer, but it actually might sadden and depress them. So he chose not to give them that information. But what was he trying to achieve? Motivation and inspiration to live a Mashiach-style life, because that will bring and hasten the coming of Mashiach. All right, now, why is Mashiach such a fundamental principle? We talked about what the world will look like, what will happen when Mashiach comes, and it's all unbelievably positive. But as we mentioned, for 3,000 years, Mashiach has not yet come, and we still exist, and Judaism still exists. So how could you say it's such a fundamental principle when it's something that will happen, but it's not something that has happened? So how do we understand it being as such a fundamental principle? The answer is a person who lives their life with Mashiach as a number one priority, that Mashiach is a reality in your life, it will revolutionize, it will enhance every single aspect of your life, every mitzvah that you do, every interaction that you have, every business deal that you have, every relationship that you have. The concept of Mashiach, again, when you live with it, transforms every element and every detail within Judaism. How do I understand it? There are two different types of people in this world. You have optimists and you have pessimists. We're going to focus now for a moment on the pessimists. From the perspective of a pessimist, everything is viewed at from a negative perspective. Now, anyone who's alive today, in the year 2020, can easily be a pessimist, and it's going to be hard to convince you out of it. Because this year has not been good. There has been tragedy, physically and spiritually. People are ill, people are sick, people are losing their businesses, people are suffering psychological damage and trauma by being anxious, by being nervous all the time because Corona could be right around the corner. People are stuck at home, people don't have relationships, people are not connecting with their friends, people's social lives are terrible. It has a huge physical impact and a psychological impact. Corona has taken a horrible toll on a spiritual level. For so long, shuls have been closed. Even shuls that are up and running, so many people feel it's not yet safe for them to attend. There's limited people, there's limited services. It has been absolutely terrible. If a person wants a reason to complain or to be negative, this is the year to do it. Absolutely. A person can look at the world and sometimes say, why bother? Why should I make the effort? Why should I do anything? Where everything is going down the tubes, everything is going down the tubes. The Alter Rebbe actually says that this negative and pessimistic attitude actually is rooted in the truth. It's actually rooted in reality. This is how he describes it in Tanya. The Alter Rebbe writes, this world and all that is called the world, the world and all that fills it is called the world of klipa, evil. Indeed, the modus operandi of the world is evil and harsh. The wicked reign supreme. A person can easily look at the world and say, it is the wicked who prosper. It is the righteous who suffer. It's crazy. It's miserable. It's terrible. I got a phone call on Friday from a person in the community who said, life is just a disaster. With Corona, danger and sickness at every turn, stuck at home, and then his heater failed. And he had to call in a replacement and spend a lot of money to fix it. And then his washing machine failed. And he had to spend money and call in someone to replace that. Look around the world. What's good? Right? There's so much negativity. There's so much bad. There's so much fighting. There's so much that's going on out there. And a person would be justified in that approach. How do we counteract that? How do we argue with that? How do we demonstrate that even though there is a pessimistic and negative way to look at the world, ultimately there's a deeper way of looking at the world, there's a more true way of looking at the world, there's a more powerful and optimistic way of looking at the world. How do you give hope? The answer is that the Torah tells us, and that it's one of the 13 principles of Jewish faith, that yes, there is negativity and there's problems in the world. All of that is temporary. It's all temporary because Mashiach is coming. The world is marching forward. The world is marching towards it, and there will be an end to all of the suffering, all of the negativity, all of the illness, all of the corona, all of the mishigas that's going on in the world today, it will end. We're marching towards Mashiach. The Torah tells us in the book of Devarim, then the Lord your God will bring back your exiles and he will have mercy upon you. He will once again gather you from all the nations where the Lord your God has dispersed you. Even if your exiles are at the end of the heavens, the Lord your God will gather you from there and he will take you from there. And the Lord your God will bring you to the land which your forefathers possessed, and you too will take possession of it. And he will do good to you, and he will make you more numerous than your forefathers. The universal perfection of Mashiach. And we'll pause there for a second. We just read how the Torah tells us, yes, there will be negativity in the world. Yes, there are going to be challenges. But we have to know, and we have to believe, and we have to have trust, and we have to have faith that it is all temporary. It's not true. It's not real. It's not eternal. Because we are headed towards the era of Mashiach. And that has to give us hope. And this is the hope that has kept the Jewish people alive through crusades, through expulsions, through inquisitions, through pogroms, through holocausts, through terrorism. We have faith and we have confidence that Mashiach is coming. We believe that it could happen at any moment. And we believe that no matter what has occurred in life, every day means we are one step closer. Every day means we are moving forward towards the coming of Mashiach. As beautiful as this idea is, Mitchell, you might be sitting there and thinking, it's so beautiful and wonderful that one day in the future, Mashiach will come and suffering will end. But Rabbi, right now, today, are we in the middle of Corona or are we in the era of Mashiach? We're in the middle of Corona. What does it help that in the future it will be good if right now it's not good? And that's a great and powerful question, and one that is all too human to ask. And it was this question that Yaakov was trying to address before he passed away. It was this question that Yaakov wanted to answer for his children to make sure that they had the hope. What did he want to tell them? He wanted to tell them the date that when Mashiach is going to come. Because Mashiach is so real, it's so vital, it's something you have to live with. He wanted to tell his sons, you have to live with Mashiach because Mashiach is real. And when you live with Mashiach, you actually bring Mashiach closer. When you live with Mashiach, it's not something for tomorrow, it's something for today. Mashiach is relevant today. We can bring Mashiach into our lives and into the world today when we live with the Mashiach reality. And this is what Yaakov wanted to tell his kids. He wasn't able to communicate to them the exact date. Hashem didn't want that. But this message he communicated to them. The message that he communicated to them is that Mashiach is relevant today and you have to live with it every single day. Because what we do today is critical and matters, as the Alter Rebbe writes in Tanya, in text number 12. The Alter Rebbe writes, the universal perfection of Mashiach and the resurrection of the dead, which is the manifestation of godly revelation in this world, are directly hinged upon the work we invest during exile. This means a person cannot say, who knows when Mashiach is going to come? We're in the middle of Corona. Who needs to go to shul? Who needs to do any of this stuff? It's not worth it. Why should I bother? I don't need to do it. The Alter Rebbe says that's completely wrong. That belief in Mashiach is one of the 13 principles of Jewish faith, which means it's relevant every day. Because every single day we are building and we are creating the reality of Mashiach. We are bringing Mashiach closer. Every day is vital and critical. What we do today matters in the most ultimate way. And this is what Yaakov's message was for his children. Mashiach is relevant every day. It will give you hope. It will give you optimism. It will give you energy and enthusiasm. It will permeate everything that you do. You will live like your life is on fire. You're going to live with joy. You're going to live with a sense of urgency. Because what you do today brings Mashiach closer. Text number 13 from the Rebbe. The Rebbe writes, it's readily apparent when a Jew really appreciates that the religious observance actually hastens Mashiach's arrival and the rebuilding of the temple, when a Jew really gets that his or her action literally brings the entire world to its very purpose, namely the mission statement of creating a home for God, then the religious observance is suffused with an entirely different energy, with so much more passion and meticulousness. The Rebbe is saying a person who doesn't live with Mashiach, they can be observant, but is there passion? Is there energy? It could be boring, it's done by rote, it's just normal, it's tradition, it's duty, it's obligation, it's responsibility. But where's the fire in it? Where's the sense of urgency in it? With Mashiach, you get that. And these efforts hasten the final redemption for all Jews. Namely, the redemption arrives immediately. Right? Living with Mashiach is critical. So hopefully, based on all that we have discussed thus far, it's now clear and obvious. Why is the concept of the coming of Mashiach a fundamental principle of Jewish faith? One that without it, you're missing something totally, completely, even though Mashiach has not come for 3,000 years. The answer is, it's a different Judaism when you live with Mashiach. It's a different Judaism. Without it, it's rules, it's regulations, it's obligations and responsibilities and duties. But again, no urgency, no passion, no fire. When a person lives with Mashiach, it transforms and it changes the entirety of Judaism. Every day is the Super Bowl. Every day is the World Series. It matters in a completely, totally different way. There's energy, right? There's vigor. Now, how do we get to this point? The more we learn about, the more we know about Mashiach, the more excited we're going to be. The Rebbe always encouraged that a person every single day should spend some time learning and studying about the Messianic era, because this will provide for them the fuel to be able to feel that passion for the coming of Mashiach. And again, that will totally revolutionize and energize your day. We're going to conclude with a beautiful text number 14, from Rabbi Yoel Kahn, who is one of the leading teachers of Hasidic philosophy today, and I'm going to do the biography, it's interesting as well. Rabbi Yoel Kahn was born in 1930. He is a lead expert on Chabad philosophy. Rabbi Kahn served as the senior member and leader of the team that would memorize and transcribe the Rebbe's talks and discourses that were delivered on Shabbos and holidays, when audio recordings and taking notes is prescribed. The leading authority on Chabad philosophy and the Rebbe's teachings, he is in the midst of publishing a comprehensive encyclopedia on Chabad Hasidism, of which 10 volumes have already appeared. He also serves as the senior educator on Hasidic teachings at the Central Lubavitcher Yeshiva. So he writes, what is the importance of Mashiach? Why is it one of the principles of Judaism on which everything is based? He writes, to give a metaphor, imagine that a soldier in the middle of war would get up and say, I'm not interested in finding out why we're being told to shoot. All I know is that I must follow orders. Think about such a soldier, one who doesn't know that his efforts actually repel the enemy and contribute to victory. It's obvious that though he may follow orders to a T, he will lack a certain morale. And you can bet that at some point it will impact his performance. Eventually, he won't fight as he should. The same is true with our mission as a Jew to follow the Torah. A Jew simply cannot say that they don't care to know how or why their efforts bring about the much hoped for victory. A Jew absolutely must know that there is indeed a war at stake, a battle between the forces of good and evil, and it is our job to win this war. A Jew must know that every additional mitzvah they do introduces more godly energy into this world and brings us closer to victory. What's more, a Jew must be confident that ultimately we will win. After all, the victory is the very purpose of creation, and it's impossible for that goal not to be realized. A day later, a day earlier, eventually good will prevail. The very knowledge inspires and energizes a Jew to muster even more determination. Why is it that every Chabad rabbi is jumping and dancing and is excited and is positive and is moving and shaking? It's because we believe that everything we do matters. The purpose of creation is in our hands. The messianic era is in our hands. And that when we live in that way, it literally brings Mashiach that much closer. This is why Mashiach is one of the 13 principles of Jewish faith, even though it has not happened yet, but it is the fuel and it is the energy for every mitzvah that we do, and it energizes life in a way like no other. The previous Rebbe stated that when soldiers go out to war, they must come out of the gate with a victory march. From the outset, a soldier must go with the mindset that victory is his. When he does, he fights with added vigor and dedication. And thus, believing in Mashiach is fundamental to our faith. A Jew must know that at the end of the day, the Jewish people are going to win this war. Not just that we are destined to self-determination and freedom to serve God, but so much more. That Mashiach will in fact steer the entire world to serve God, bringing about the absolute and eternal rule of God. Belief in Mashiach gives us confidence, optimism, energy, and vigor to serve Hashem today, to help out our community, to help out our friends, to make the world a better place. And knowing that, it absolutely will hasten the coming of Mashiach. May it be speedily in our day. Amen. All right, any questions, comments, suggestions? All right, so you can unmute yourself and chime in at any point. Next week, we will be starting a new book, right? We just concluded the book of Bereshis. So next week, Tuesday, we're going to continue the classes with the book of Shemos. I did not order any of the student books. If you want one, let me know. I can get one for you. But the way that I have the text incorporated within the PowerPoint, it's not as critical that you actually have a physical book. But if you want one, let me know. I can order it. But we're going to continue next Tuesday with the book of Shemos.